everyone to our artist talk today. We're very excited for Steve and Matt to be here. I'm Cheryl. I'm curator for the show. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce Matthew and Steven. Just give us a little brief overview of who you guys are, kind of your overall process with making art, and then think about if you weren't here, what wouldn't we know about your artwork and yourselves?
Oh, okay. Well, hello everyone. I'm Matt Thornton. I am obviously an artist. What was the first question again? Okay, so that's me. I am an artist, illustrator. I've been painting. Well, I've been drawing my entire life, but probably within the last 5 or 6 years, I finally started taking painting a little bit more serious. Partly because I came into gallery spaces a little bit differently. I was in comics. I do a lot of comics, and I feel like that's very well represented in my art. So I was very much of a comics kid. Probably about 2020, 2021-ish, I finally started taking my comic stuff, which was always, my fine art stuff, which was always like little sketches and doodles that I would do in my sketchbook before I started doing comics. So it was always like, all right, I got to work on this comic book page, but I got to warm up. So let me come up with this kooky, zany kind of thing. And then eventually that turned into some paintings, and people received them very well. So then after that, I started saying, well, maybe I bought some canvases and start, brushing up on painting, because I did paint in art school, but I never really took it serious. And then, so probably about the last 5 or 6 years, I've been doing a lot of gallery shows, which kind of spiraled into murals now. So now I do murals, which spiraled into teaching now. So now I teach. It all started with comics, so I always say that first. And a lot of my paintings focused around things that I see around the city. They're also inspired by illustrative comic book imagination things. So I take a lot of things that you might see in the real world, and then I mix it with my comic book ideology and spinning the narrative storytelling wise, and bright colors inspired by comics and cartoons, and marry those things together to give it a very unique look. Mixed media wise, I use a lot of different mixed medias in my painting, mainly in the transparent realm. Not so much collage or anything like that. I just like working transparently because I like to draw first and then use color to tint and shade my art. And then, so yeah, that's pretty much my process and practice. And the last question was, if you weren't here, what wouldn't we know about you and your artwork? If I weren't here, you wouldn't know that I fight a lot with my paintings. I do, if for every story of each painting, there's always an exploration and a study, and it ends in a piece that I'm pretty happy with. But the struggle back and forth is a lot. I get a lot of credit, or people tend to think that I handle colors well or I handle art well, but it's a journey. Like, I fight often and very well, apparently, but I learn a lot from each piece, and each one has its own unique story, and I get a lot of pats on the back for them looking so well, but actually, like, they take a lot. So I think for each one, I have a story for the struggle that went through it. So when people purchase or people like my art, it's liking the struggle that it took to get it. So that means a lot to me when people tell me that they like my art. So Steve, you're on.
I'm Steven Quinkert. I am fairly new into this realm. So I got my BFA from Wayne State University, I think 2002. And I did interior design for 20 years. So this is not my forte, but you can see kind of my background was like graphic draftsman. I did a lot of AutoCAD with all of my drawings and stuff. So that's kind of like my architectural background. And then with COVID, my husband decided, he's going to retire, and we become snowbirds. So we go back and forth to Tucson. So I have this dual identity now. And I was like, well, I can't do interior design 6 months here and 6 months there. Like, I got to figure something out. So I was like, all right, well, I'm going to step back into the into the art world again, because I always kind of wanted to be an artist, but I took a different route through it. So I thought, all right, let's just tap into it. So I started taking a bunch of drawing classes again, kind of wake up that side of the brain, something a little bit more creative. And then like I took a colored pencil class and just like fell into it headlong and like just loved it. Like the detail and like there's a rabbit hole, like Matthew says, you can go down and just you work on something, the smallest little detail. And like no one else may notice it, but like for me, it's the first thing I spot in my drawing. So so when I started out, I was like, oh yeah, maybe I can kind of do this. And I did a couple drawings, and the first couple were like, oh, so you're a photographer? And I was like, no, they're actually pencil. And they're like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Like, you need to keep doing this. And I was like, okay, maybe I need to keep doing this. So, so I started collecting images of stuff I've seen around that I find very interesting. I like color, I like drama, I like a light and dark, I like different vantage points. And if I see something unique, that's the thing, like I'll like, okay, snapshot this now, because in 5 minutes or tomorrow or next week, it won't look anything like this. So like I want to get it right then and there. So that each one of my drawings kind of like catches that. And I like to, and then from there, a lot of times people say, well, from the photograph to the drawing, it doesn't look anything like it. And I was like, well, that's my hand in that. And I've leaned into that too, because a lot of times, especially in color pencil, you want it to make it look as real as the photograph. And sometimes the photograph's okay, but there's part of the medium is like you can bring something to it that the photograph couldn't bring. And that's what I love about my medium of the color pencil. So I do some assemblage stuff, but this is like, I think my passion. This is where I'm going to plant my flag. So, one thing you wouldn't know about it if I wasn't here right now is, like Matthew says, the time that goes involved in some of this stuff is crazy. And stuff that happens really fast that I think would take all day, that doesn't. And then other stuff where I'm like 2 hours putting dots down on the paper. And I'm like, I think I'm going to lose my eyesight today. So yeah, that's me.
Do you find that when you're working from a photo, because I realized this yesterday when I was working on something, do you find it a struggle to stay true to your photo versus incorporating your own thing? Because I know sometimes if I have the photo out for too long, I'll try to recreate the photo, and then I realize, well, why this doesn't work? Well, because I brought this other part into it that's not part of the photo. Do you find it like tough to?
It's a tug and it's a push and pull.
Yeah.
And so like part of me is like, okay, this part of the photograph is great, but this little part that is part of the photograph is not so great. So like that's when I'll use my artistic license. That's when I'll pull that out and say, okay, yeah, we're gonna let that part of it go, and I'm gonna put a little bit of me in there.
I think that's how the tires kind of started.
Okay.
I would do these like the car up there. I would do images like that, and there would be something that wasn't speak, and then I'm like, well, I'll just put these tires in here, and they become a compositional tool. And now it's like how I control the image, and it's like anytime I get stuck on something, it's really like, well, just put some tires in it, and like they can, and it's amazing how well they fit. I mean, whether it be like they're very universal, and I think that kind of, this is weird, like it kind of speaks to the universal nature of tires as well, because tires themselves, like outside of their initial function, making cars go, people use them to plant flowers, people use them as swings, people use them, grind them up and put them in the astroturf so people can play sports on them. So in a weird way, they also kind of work that way in my art, whether they be something as conceptual as, and I representing a concept, or something more tangible like actual tires as a pile. I've had people look at them and say they look like red blood cells.
Oh.
And I was like,
Wow.
well, where'd you get that from?
Wow.
And they're like, well, I'm a nursing student. I was a nursing student.
Yeah.
So they look like, in this context, they look like red blood cells. And I'm like, never would have got that, So part of it, something as just arbitrary as a circular object outside of its context takes a different meaning in a different setting. And I'm sure there's some great philosopher that put that eloquently way better than I did just now. But that's why I asked the question, because it's like, I will draw the bus until I put the bus photo away.
Yes.
And then it's like, okay, now it's on you, man. Make something else, you know,
Yeah.
because I will fight the bus. I'll be like, this window doesn't look right. The shadow under this thing doesn't look right. And then there's the fight. I was like, well, just put the damn photo away and draw what you want. And I'm like, okay.
So the way I detach from that is like, okay, if somebody really wanted the photograph, they would just have
They just get the photo.
They don't need my drawing of the photograph.
No.
So that's the
There
thing
it
like
is.
I bring to it is like,
Yeah. And I think that's part of what we should be doing as artists in general, is not trying to, I mean, obviously there is some wonderfulness in, like, especially in the hyper realistic. I've got a buddy that MFA at Cranbrook, and he's just like the follicles in the hand, he can get those just masterfully. And I'm just like, nah, bruh, I'm gonna paint some tires on it, and but each person brings their own individual interpretation of it, and I think that they all, in a way, contribute to, the human experience in a way. So
it's interesting. You talked about the tires being in somebody's perspective of the red blood cells.
Yeah.
And I get this a lot with my pieces, is people bring something to it that I never even thought about, or they have a personal connection or an experience, or it reminds them of something. And they bring something to it that I had never even thought about. And I'm like, oh yeah, I guess so. Because like the one drawing I have of like the house in the fog, somebody was like, oh yeah, I know this house. I had friends that lived upstairs, and we would run over the back door, and there's like this whole narrative going on that I had never even thought of. I'm like, you've seen this house? Like, oh, this is my old neighborhood. And I'm like, wow.
Well, for sure about the backstory. You were telling me about the backstory about the Atwater house. So for those of you, that house right there,
on wheels.
Yeah, on wheels. So there is an actual narrative behind that. That's actually not really, there was a house up in Lake Orion Way that it was one of those older style houses, and they were moving it because they were building condos or whatever. And Steve was telling me this, he had a friend that worked in that house. So then all of a sudden I got the story from that, and they were lucky enough to come to the show.
They were.
And tell me about their story and their interaction with that house. So, and I've done stuff like that before with like cassette tapes and different things. I hear stories about, oh man, I had a cassette tape that it was the only cassette tape I had when I was on a road trip, and then it broke when I was in the Nevada desert, and like all I had was that cassette tape. So I just had to ride through Nevada in silence. And just those interesting interactions that let other people feel their own stuff in it. And I feel like that helps resonate, that connects me with them and them with the piece. And, even if there is no purchase or anything like that, I get that cool story. And they get to tell that story, and which they probably never would have told that story to anybody, because what value does it have to anybody? But in this context, it was allowing them to open up and express that to me.
I always think it's like the art piece as a plant, and it's growing deeper roots.
Oh yeah. That's a good way to think about it. That's awesome. Yeah. So.
Steven, so from the work that I remember seeing in previous shows with you, all of your drawings are on black paper.
So yeah, and that's just by accident. I took shots at night, and I thought, okay, we're going to do this on black paper. I've not stayed exclusively on black paper. I've veered into other colors and white. Mm-hmm. So yeah. It's interesting because you kind of have to flip how you draw on black paper, because a lot of times people are like, how do you get that intensity? And a lot of times, if you were to just take colored pencil and start drawing on black paper, one thing you'll notice is like the colors just completely change. Like the saturation of it just disappears. Like bright yellows turn into mustard, bright reds turn into like cherry color, like dark cherry. Mm-hmm. And so you have to lay like a foundation of white down in order to bring that hue back up and the intensity. And then with some of the really bright, like my alleyway drawing, I have like street lights in it. And that I actually use a little bit of gouache because I just can't get that intensity of white in it. And just a little bit of that like brings the depth to it. So that's how I deal with the black paper.
I love that pencil drawing. I was talking about it just earlier about how you were sending me pictures of the process. And just watching it go from where it's at now to where it was at. And it's just awesome. And those little touches of gouache to give it that bright fluorescent feel. I can smell that alley. And it, it smells like an alley, but like the awesome art is just, I love it. And that little pop of gouache just to give it that against the black, with the black paper. And it's definitely like, those shadows I feel like will be way more laborious on a whiter paper. You'd have to go in and chisel that out.
I don't know how many black pencils you'd have to use.
You'd just be burning through them.
Yeah, nonstop.
But it's just I really love that piece. It's amazing, and it's going to a good home. So that's
it is. It's going to really
good to know.
Yeah, it's interesting because you can use, when you're going a night shot like that on the black paper, there's a lot of forgiveness with it because you've got shadows to play with. So like how much you got to go slow with how much light you want to bring onto it because you want it just to be right. If you put too much on it, then it's not going to read right. It looks like you've got giant spotlights on everything. Yeah. So. Yeah, it's you slowly. I work my way from dark to light on that.
Yeah.
So.
Matt, question for you.
Yes.
You also do mural paintings as well.
Yes.
Do you have a different process with coming from a canvas to a very, very large wall?
Yeah. So there are some similarities, but there are some differences. Mediums, add different texture to different elements, but they also hinder in certain ways. So I use exclusively rattle can or spray paint when I'm doing my murals. And then, but whereas with painting, I use acrylic ink and I use finer transparent materials that I can use to, because I'm a draftsman, I like to draw. Color was always kind of a weakness for me. Which is interesting because people consider it one of my defining things. But it's all on the back of good draftsmanship. And then I just use color to tint my drawings as opposed to coloring them more opaque. Whereas with murals, it's opaque paint. Aerosol is, you lay it on, you can put a red over the top of a yellow and it won't shine through, it'll just mask it. So, there is a difference in thought process when laying colors down. Forgiveness with the opaque, because if I make a mistake with an opaque color, I can just go over the top of it. Whereas with paintings or drawings that I do, once you lay an ink down, if I have a yellow and I want to turn that yellow to blue now, it's going to be green because of the transparent nature of the mediums that I'm working with. So there's a lot of planning and thinking that has to go into my paintings, whereas with murals, I can be a little bit freer because if I make a mistake, I can just, and it goes away. So in a way, murals are a little bit more easy because I can fix stuff, whereas with this, if I'm screwed, it's like taking like 696 right now. If I don't get off at Woodward, I'm going to Orchard Lake Road. That's it. I'm stuck. So you better get off or you're gone. So that's kind of how it is with the paintings and the art, is that, you gotta have to be a little bit more of the fine art stuff. I have to be a little bit more calculated in planning. And almost like jazz, you kind of gotta improvise with the mistakes and go with them when things go weird. And you can still make something cool out of it. But there's a thought process that I have to be a little bit more thoughtful in my, which is where the fights come from, because I'll make a mistake and then all of a sudden, crap, now I'm stuck. Now I got to go to Orchard Lake Road. But so that's kind of how that's where the fights come from in that. So.
What about the scale? Because like your paintings were medium to medium large, like murals are massive.
Yeah.
So how do you make that jump?
A lot of steps back. If I'm lucky enough, I can step back and get the scale.
Okay.
And I do that with these two. I step back and get the scale right. If I have a general proportion in my head, I know I have like a margin of error of this. So if I miss within this, then I can, fix it.
There's a little built-in forgiveness.
Yeah, it's about knowing yourself.
No?
You gotta know yourself.
Okay.
Because it's like, I know I make heads too big. So if I'm doing it transparent, I better get the head right or else it's going to be a fight. Whereas with murals, if I get the head too big, I can cut
Quick
in
fix, yeah.
and come back.
Reshape it.
But knowing yourself is important. I'm not really good. Sometimes my heads are too big. Sometimes my hands are too small. My house, sometimes the perspective isn't right. So I'll have to, figure out that part. But building those little back doors or little escape hatches into the art have saved me more than they've hurt me. And then, that's very important. And I know who I am, and I know I'm going to mess up here, and I know I'm going to mess up there, or I know I struggle here. So as long as I know that I have this little fix,
it's part of the process.
Yeah, but it comes from knowing yourself and knowing what you do wrong and knowing what you have a tendency to mess up on to create those fixes, which comes from doing a lot of pieces. So.
I have one more question and then I'll open up to the audience. What was your favorite piece to make and what was your most challenging piece to make for the show and why was it?
How would you first?
I think my favorite piece was the Orleans Street After Dark, because I like a lot of color and a lot of drama, and it was both all at the same time. Trying to get like the street. A friend of mine said, it reminds me of trick-or-treating when we were kids in the rain, like on a cold October night. I'm like, well, you kind of nailed it on the head because it was done on a very wet night. There was fog, like it was cold. And I'm like, okay, I know that my drawing, like people understood where I was coming from. But then like in creating it, like I always, for some reason with these, I start with the sky first. And if I get the hue right on that, then I start working down into all the details. And I just loved, like, it was like one of those things you get down the rabbit hole and you're doing detail. Mm-hmm. And then like, okay, I got to take a step back at this and look at the big picture again.
Yeah. So
that was like my favorite. The hardest one, I think, was my OMAT drawing, the laundromat with the neon. Just because perspectives on that, and then also getting like all the shading. And then when I was looking at the photograph, I realized there's a mural inside the laundromat and I was like, oh man, I have to do the mural too. Like I already did the washing machines and the dryers. I don't want to do the mural too. So I kind of did like an ode to, like I made real loose. But that was like really hard trying to get all that right, the subtleties and the nuances.
Yeah, I love that one. That one's cool too. Just like the longer you look at it, the more like those washing machines are so good. It's just like man, if like the shot, the highlights and reflections on the inside, it's just chef's kiss.
Thank you.
I would say to answer the question. My favorite. Wait, were you done?
No, I'm done.
Okay, I didn't.
Go for it.
I fell into that. I think my favorite piece is probably the birdhouse. Honestly, it's probably the one that I was working on the longest. I think I just started putting the houses together in that juxtaposed kind of position right when we started talking about the show. So it was the longest one I worked on. Just pick it up every week and just mess around with it. And it was very fun to get those fades in the background with the warm orange to the white. And then just designing the houses themselves. There's no black in that painting.
Did you just make up the homes, or are they based off of homes?
Well, they're based off of certain homes. Just the style of architecture. I really like that spire. And I grew up around those types of houses. And then when I moved to the suburbs, obviously there's some suburban houses that are reflected in there. But just the idea and the story behind just these houses connected, and then the birdseed kind of at the bottom, and just people living in homes, just playing around with the narrative of what's happening in this and how this all came to be. That's probably my favorite one, just because of the color and the size. The one that was most challenging was that one, the tire one. That one I started and like it just, it was a fight. I started live painting that as a live drawing, and then like the wind caught it and it turned into a kite. And then it fell on the ground, and just it was a struggle coming up with the colors and the design. And I fought that one quite a bit. tied for second is this other one over here. I struggle with simplicity. I have a tendency to overdo it, I feel. If you haven't seen it, I encourage you to take a look at it. But the hands-off nature, when something is done, is always been something that I can't seem to do. So once I arrive at a point, I'm so used to putting all this labor and time into something, that one came together relatively quickly. And I kept thinking for things to put in there. And I'm like, I don't know, I kind of like it the way it is. I'm like, but that's not art. Art is fighting it and suffering and you know, it was like, no, it's done. And I'm like, so yeah, it came together. It's on the other side and I'm looking at it because I'm peering through into it. But like that was the one that I had to learn to just, it's good, leave it alone, it's fine, you know, it looks exactly the way it's intended to. And then the old habit of just like, yo, like, no, you got to put more detail in it. You got to put more lights and shadows and occlusion and all types of fancy art terms in it. And I was like, no, it's.
Yeah, my thing is always like, when do we put the pencils down? Like, when is it pencils down time?
Have you ever done the thing where you just flip it around?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Upside down, I put it at the end of the hall, just 20 feet away, 40 feet away.
Get it away, you know, because if left to my own devices, I will ruin it. So it's like, I have to, and that was one of those ones where it was like, I can't believe I got it so quickly. And then I was like, no, there's got to be more to
I'm
this.
always amazed. There's certain things when I start, I'm thinking, okay, this is going to take 5 hours. This is going to be like a full day. And I get into it. This took 2 hours. This is going to take a week. This is going to take 15 minutes. I'm just like, man, I got that all wrong.
Yeah. So those two, that one, but I love it. And like, they're like the child that gives you problems. I love it. But if I get one more call from the principal, I'm gonna freaking lose it. And you know, like that. So it was that one and the one on the other side. I'd say those were my children that kept getting sent to detention. So, but I love them, but they're interesting. So yeah, that's kind of where I ended up with those. But I love all of them. I think they're all very successful pieces. I'm really impressed with Steve's work. I think our work looks really well together. I love that smaller one, and I left it to destiny, and someone grabbed it, and I'm not mad about it because I said if it's here at the end of the show, then I'll take it. But if it's not, then it wasn't meant for me. And I know in my head that is out there, and it's looking as amazing 10 years from now.
You know what that tells me is that there's one in the future that you're gonna like even more.
So that's how it goes. You know, I'm not the person to try to chain down destiny. You know, like I'm like, you know what? No, I have to have this. No, it's not. Maybe something else will come for you. So I'm fully aware of letting things just happen, and then something.
Well, I'm the same way because I wanted that piece, and I was like, okay, like when I get 5 minutes, I'm going to go talk, and you're like, nope, sorry, sold. I'm like,
yeah. See, I mean, so it's you have to kind of surrender to that. You have to be like, you know, somebody wanted it, and you know, I feel like if it was meant for you, it'll be for you. But then something else might. Awesome.
The comfort for me was that there'll be another piece with tires in it, so that's where I'd immediately.
It's not going anywhere. The tires thing, I'm kind of locked into it. Like, I mean, at this point now, people expect it, and it's like, well, all right. Well, I was gonna do like a cactus, but you know, maybe I'll put tires around the cactus.
You can come to Tucson.
I'm going to go to that's in the.
We have tires and cactuses.
Oh my God! Be still, my heart. No, now it's at a point where people are kind of like expecting it, and I've never been a slave to like what do you call it, like I have to perform, I have to do these tires, but I genuinely love doing them. They're fun. They started off as just a exercise to throw ellipses in perspective, try to freehand them without using the grid and all that stuff, just to be able to visualize it. And then the illustrator brain took over. And then I was like, okay, so I started stacking ellipses, and it's like, oh, these kind of look like tires. So then it became this tapestry of tires that just kind of interweave, and then they became a really cool compositional tool, a really cool like unspoken icon, or something that people can kind of bring their own narrative into. And now, you know, if anytime I get stuck, I can put them in there, and people will fill them with their own meaning and process. And I love doing them, so they're not going anywhere. So
okay.
you'll be
good to know.
Yes. So yeah.
for Matthew, you said that you teach. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about your teaching experiences?
Yes. So I teach at CCS. I'm a adjunct professor in the illustration department, and the experience I've been doing it for 3 years, but I've also done like workshops and lectures and stuff for like teenagers and young kids. I've taught younger kids all the way from like first grade, like, you know, shapes and colors and stuff, all the way up to college. I prefer college a lot because I get to, you know, explore more things that can not only, like, at that age, art is, when you're a child, art is just an activity that starts the exploration. Whereas with college kids, it's more about how can I refine these and tangibly make them into something. So I feel like I offer more to that. I've been doing it 3 years now. I teach basic perspective, hence the ellipses. And I teach junior studio, which is a class that's basically, it's a project-based class where students, you know, develop a project and I help them execute that throughout the 15 weeks. Both have their rewards, both have their drawbacks, but I feel like I enjoy teaching. I'd say probably teaching is probably my favorite part of the art that I'm in right now, is because I get to inspire and help people achieve what they would hope to get out of their artistic practice. One of the things I lead with is managing your expectations of success. If you want to be James Jean or somebody that's really famous, well, there's something that has to go with that. Are you willing to do that? If you're an artist that just likes having fun and doing it for fun, I don't want the pressure of having to commission and all the other stuff, well, then your level of success is going to be a little bit different than somebody who wants to be the next Pollock or, you know, whatever. So determine what that is for you, and, you know, if that fits what you're willing to do for it, then you can find success in it. And I think once people kind of put that down, they're more receptive to their own growth and process and stuff like that. So. Very well.
Actually, for both of you guys, you kind of spoke a little bit earlier about, very briefly, on kind of like your inspiration or where you're getting your ideas from, but like thinking about both of your processes. So Stephen, like when I look at your work, I think like, okay, what prompted you to stop and be like, oh, this is the frame, like this is the spot? Like, is it a feeling? Is it a color, light palette? Is it a moment? Is it a reflection? And then for you, Matthew, like what? Like, obviously, some of these houses are real. Like, as someone who grew up in the area, I'm like, oh, I feel like I know that house, right? But maybe it's not that house, but it's very much indicative of that neighborhood or that time. Like, what compels you to say, like, okay, this is the home I'm going to focus on, and then this is like the duality of like the color or the creature or the other character? Like, how do you guys decide on how you're going to move forward?
So for me, it is literally like a spontaneous thing. And I think all my experience up to this point, like growing up in the city, seeing it at different times of the day, different times of the year, and then I have my interior design, so it's like pattern, it's color, it's texture, it's rhythm, like all of that. And if I see it, like I'm like, I have to jump on it right then, like immediately. And then I'll take like 3 or 4 different shots of it, so that way I get all the nuance in it, like a brighten, lighten, like wide frame, zoom in, like detail stuff. And so that way, like, I know I can work off of this going forward, and that way, and then I can like play with that as I get into it. But like, yeah, no, I've done a couple things where I'm like, oh, I'll come back to this next week. Like I was running in my neighborhood, and there was a bike frame, no seat, no wheels, no handlebars, nothing. It was just the frame, and it was chained to the sign, and the sun was coming in at the right time, the shadow cast all the way across the sidewalk. And I thought, I'm going to come back here tomorrow and take a photo of this, because this is going to make a great drawing. I came back the next day, it was gone. And I was like, well, this is like, you got to jump on that moment when you see it. So yeah, I try to do it now. I don't even think twice about it. Like, I stop the car, I get out, I do whatever I need to do to capture that again. Because if it catches my eye, I know it's going to capture a lot of other people's eyes.
Been caught at a light.
Yeah.
Fumbling for my phone.
But
and guys behind me. And I'm like, I got to take this picture, bro. Go around. There's 3 other lanes. Just go do it.
I usually put the emergency blinkers on.
Yeah. Oh, all right, cool.
Yeah.
I never thought to do that, but
safety first.
Yeah. And then it probably saved me a lot of middle fingers too if I just went there. But yeah, to that as well. Yes, it is very much a spontaneous thing. I usually drive by things quite a bit. I take the same kind of route, and it frames. I think a lot of it is from comics and movies, looking at still photos of composition, and looking at those things. It will set a standard of what a cool image kind of looks like. And as you're walking through life spontaneously, those elements will coalesce in a way. And then something in the back of my brain says picture. So like I'll pull my phone out and I'll take a picture of it. And a lot of them sit in my phone for months. I don't immediately start working on anything. Usually what'll happen is I'll be on a bike ride or I'll be out and I'll just take a picture and it'll sit in my phone for months. I'd say that Atwater one's been sitting in my phone for at least 6 months or previous to that.
I can top that.
Yeah.
The alleyway drawing over there, the square one, I took that photograph 30 years ago.
What? Okay, yeah, you win.
Like the shed's not there, the water tower's gone.
Wow.
There's now like overgrown.
Yeah, you were telling me like that whole alley is totally different now.
So, and I was meant to work on it, so I get that.
Yeah, but you know, you fall in love with it and just the actual photo, and then you know, it sits in almost like a crock pot. It cooks, and then the colors come to you as you know live life. And then when it's time to make a piece, it's like, okay, it's time to make that thing, and it comes together in its own way. It's never exactly what you thought it would be in your head, despite how well I plan it. But yeah, it kind of just like it has to sit for a while in my phone, or the idea has to sit for a minute. I've got an idea for speaking to something being there and then gone. There was an old tennis court that they used to have in Oak Park, and I used to ride my bike around it all the time, and that's where I would think about stuff. If I had a piece of chalk, I'd draw on the chalk, and you know, no one was using it because there was no nets and it's all busted up, so no one cared. So it became my little spot to chill. Well, they destroyed it. Now they're going to build something cool on top of it now, and now I'm sad. But like, I took a bunch of pictures of the way the concrete breaks, the way the weeds would come up in between it, and it's got this really cool terracotta municipal green that's been faded by the sunshine, and it's like that was what was vibing with me. So I took multiple pictures of that, knowing that they're going to try to put a new pickleball court or something over there.
Yeah, of course.
So I better get this. And lo and behold, I woke up one day and it was gone. So now it's like, okay, now the clock is ticking. Now it's time to start thinking about how I can interpret that in my own little way. So I think, it comes with time. And when it's time for it to come out, it comes out. And yeah, that's probably the best way.
I got a question for you. So you let things sit on your phone like I kind of do.
Yeah.
When you go back to it, do you see something different that you didn't see the first time around? Because when I get into some of my drawings, I'm like, okay, so the downtown view from Eastern Market, like I was like, oh, I'm gonna just concentrate on the buildings, and then I like got into the trucks, and I realized all these trucks have advertisements on the side. I'm like, I gotta draw all these advertisements now. And I'm like, damn it.
There have been some things that I've definitely found in the background of certain images that have been, you know, like, oh man, I gotta draw that. Usually it's with the perspective of like a house or a neighborhood. There's a sign that says, you know, vote for who, or there's something that tells what time of the year that this photo was taken in, that I feel like would be interesting to keep in there. But then there have also been times where I just say, you know what, I'm gonna put something goofy in there, and I'm gonna put like a weird advertisement for like a pho restaurant. Or
artistic license.
Yeah, you know, and just to give the person that spends that little bit of extra time looking at the piece, like, huh? What do you mean? That's not a real...
A little Easter egg.
Yeah, a little, you know, just a little something to reward the viewer for spending their time, giving me a few seconds of their attention. So yeah, depending on the importance of it, if I have a cool joke or something like that in my head, I'll plug that in. But yeah, I definitely find stuff that I didn't see before.
Yeah, so the laundry mat, the OMAT, every time my husband and I would go walking, there would be another letter out on the sign. And finally we went by and they just had "Oh Matt," and I started laughing so hard. I'm like, okay, today's the day.
That's the time.
Today's the day
That's
we're gonna study this.
It happens just like that, you know.
And since then, the rest of the letters have gone out. The sign doesn't even light up anymore.
It's just like that, you know. You the moment comes, and then you just take the picture, and then you work on it. So I think that's probably where I ended up at. So.
I have a question for each of you. First of all, your murals that you do, are any of them on commercial buildings on the outside that if we drive by and see it?
So a lot of the murals that I've done are usually on private property. They're not commissioned by any city or anything like that. They're usually part of someone's like, hey, I want you to paint something on my building. I'm like, okay, how much? And then they're like, well, I'm like, okay, I'll tell you what, I'll paint it, but I get to paint whatever I want. You know, like you don't get a say in this. I get to do what I do. And if you come over, then we wrap it up. But, and they're like, well, okay, well, what do you have in mind? It's gonna be tires. And then they're like, okay. And then that's typically how it goes. Now I get pushback, and I get certain people appreciate it and certain people push back. Currently, the most current one that I'm working on right now is on Wabash, right outside, like in the core city, kind of 94. Well, it's like 94 and
96.
Yeah, like 94, right after you get off of the Lodge, and it's in that little corner right outside of core city. And most of my murals are not really like big front-facing murals. Are kind of like these found wildflowers that are in the background that usually like the urban explorer community kind of will see. They'll find them, and they're all, you know, I have permission. I'm not just going in like buildings to do it, you know, but they're like wildflowers. They're like found in the corner, and people see them. They're like, oh, where did this come from? One of the ones I like the most is actually not even in Michigan. It's in Toledo. It's behind a car wash. And the only way you would see it is if you were washing your car and you just happen to go around the backside and you look to the right. And there's this big, bright orange, blue tire tapestry on the side of it. And you're like, what? Like, why is this? So I understand that a lot of companies, and there's a love-hate relationship with tires, because like the tire thing goes back to the 80s and 90s back in Detroit, when people would just dump them in fields. So there's a community
They still do.
Yeah. So and I've spoken to people that have had to deal with that. They've had private property that people just dump tires on that they've had to clean up. So there's a tension that comes from seeing it. And I understand that. So I understand why people would not want me to paint these tires on their building or commission me to do them. So I get that. But at the same time, they represent a certain time in Detroit, and they all a time that I grew up in. So me injecting them with color and making them bright and giving them a bit of energy is my way of saying like, yo, y'all brought me up too, just like the city did. So I get that part. So there's a duality with it, and I fully accept that. I'm not mad about it. I'm not fighting for it. I understand. So if you wanted me to paint something and but you don't want to pay, you're going to get tires. And if you want me to paint something commission-wise, then we'll have to discuss square footage. We have to discuss money. We have to discuss all those other things. But I'll paint for pretty much anything, but there's going to be a trade-off. I'm going to get to do what I want if you're not going to, have the compensation package for it. There's no problem with me painting, but you're going to get what I want. So.
And you said you spend half the year in Tucson.
Yeah.
So how does your art change from what you're doing
That's a good question.
here and what you're doing
So
here?
I'm in an evolution.
Right now. So like I've had a big Detroit kick, and now I'm gonna like switch gears and do a Tucson kick. So the beauty of Detroit and Tucson is I feel like it's the same city, just a different geographical space. Like Tucson had these waves of success and failure. And there's a lot of blight in Tucson as well, but then there's a lot of good things that are coming up. And so there's a lot of architectural, historical stuff in it that I love. But then like there's like, you have this intensity blue in the sky from like being in the desert where there's no clouds all day long. And like the atmosphere is like 5% humidity. Like you just don't get that here in Michigan, very few days out of the year. And so for me, like I'm starting to lean into that. So like I have this duality now. So for me, it keeps things interesting because now I get to do like different things that I wouldn't have in a Detroit drawing per se. So like I'm exploring a lot, like, but there's still basic things like neon is big in Tucson, it's big here. There's a lot of different architectural styles in Tucson that are different than here, but they're still interesting to look at. So that's, I'm starting to explore that part of it. So I'm interested in that.
Any other questions? This is for both of you. Do you have anything, you were talking about futures, and I was thinking, is there something that's in the back of your mind that's on your future art bucket list that you're thinking?
I really am tiptoeing, lightly dipping my toe into the sculpture water. I feel like I've reached a point right now with my art that I've gotten a lot out of painting, 2D. I would like to start getting into more cardboard and foam sculptures. Cause I just think like if I did like a house, like the birdhouse in like a giant cardboard, something that people could kind of immerse themselves in, I would very much like to start doing that. I was in an art show called the House of Tarot, where they basically took tarot cards and each artist had a room and they designed that room based on what theme tarot card they had.
Wow.
So they're actually having another one in October. They do it twice a year. So I got the 5 of Wands, and I've had this cool idea of doing something crazy sculpture wise because it's more of an immersive show. So I'm like, okay, this is me being able to do it. And I couldn't fully get it. Like I my brain just wouldn't work for the ideas that I had. So I did something and I was very happy with it, but it didn't achieve what I wanted it to achieve. So I think that's my next thing that I want to start doing is more immersive, experiential, designing whole spaces, interior design, that live as more art, like more immersive art. So I think that's where I ultimately hope to land. We'll see how that goes, but that's ultimately what I would like to do. So yeah.
I've come up with a couple ideas in the long run. Like after I work on some Tucson stuff, then I want to work on the in-between because we drive back and forth. And there are a lot of different routes between here and Tucson that you can go.
That's gonna be a nice, scenic, like you see all types of stuff.
We see everything. There are places in eastern Colorado where you see nothing. If you were to stop in the middle of the road and lay down, no one would hit you. There's not a tree, there's not a bush. And then I always think like, if there's a tornado here, we're dead because there's nowhere to go. But then like, you get in the Rockies and it's just stuff you'd never see in Michigan. So I want to explore the in-between too. And I thought about doing like a Tucson to Detroit and then a Detroit to Tucson, like different routes. So yeah, that's on my pin for future projects.
That's gotta be a heck of a drive though. I've never had the nerve to do something like that, but I would love to just do like almost, or even I guess something safer would probably be like the train route where you take it up north of Michigan and go through Canada. And then you come down to Oregon or something.
There's a cross country you can go from Chicago to LA. Yeah,
so something like that would probably be a safe little dip my toe in as opposed to like the fully commit to.
It helps to know people along the way too.
Yeah, I don't know enough people. Well, I got some Navy buddies I could probably hit up. I could probably plan that. All right, never mind. So that's not off the table. I'll tell you what, in a year, we'll all meet back here and then I'll give you guys the status report of how that went. But, yeah. So.
Any final remarks from you guys? Do you have any questions for each other?
I do have one question.
Oh,
And this is like came to me fairly recently. Where did you get the idea of painting a solid color on the frames of all your pieces?
oh man! So I got yelled at for that.
Oh, why is that?
A good yell though. Like so.
Okay.
So I do Dearborn Paint Out in the Park, which is part of the Dearborn Homecoming Festival. And every year they give canvases to artists. You can sign up, and then we paint in the park. And then at the end of it, they do like an auction or like a art show of all the paintings. So the lady Sunshine Durant, who puts it on, the first year I did it, she was like, "You better paint the sides of your canvases, or just do it." And I was just like, "Okay." And then that became me just like, she was like, "Paint the sides of them." Like she gave me that sterning, like that your mother would say to you, like, "You got to paint the sides of them." I was like, "Okay," because at that point she looked at her like that. So that's where that came. And then I realized, then people would always talk to me about framing my art, and I'm like, okay, well, I can't afford to frame everything. So if you didn't want to frame it and you wanted something that had a cool, nice color on the edge of it, then you could at least just hang it as is. And then I've gone as far as to draw stuff on the sides of them to make it more.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I'll take like a neon color, like the floral red that's on the birdhouse, and then I'll take like a white or something, and I'll do like tires on the edges or something like that, just to add something to it. And a lot of people tend to like it that way. It just adds a little something to it.
Nice.
So that's kind of where that came from. And then the orange thing, I don't know, I didn't even notice the glow thing till I saw an artist on TikTok talk about doing it, and then they mentioned the glow, and I was like, does mine have a glow? I've been doing this. And I was like, oh, it does. So like, in a weird way, I was doing something.
It was subliminal.
Yeah, it was subliminal. You know, you know, the internet is weird, but like, I got that, and then, but I was doing that before I saw that video, so I was like, oh man, I didn't even notice the glow. So now that's my sales pitch. Anytime I talk about it, it's like, notice the glow. And they're like, woo, the glow. So yeah, that's how that kind of came into it.
Cool.
But,
I like that.
I guess my final thing would be, it was great, like doing the show. The shadow on that thing is still awesome to me. Like it'll be burned in my mind forever. And I'll look for an opportunity to do something like that, because it's a good. If you haven't noticed, this smaller painting right here, I mean, a smaller drawing here, you did that off of a found piece of
Metals.
Yeah. And if you look at it, there's a bridge, but the top metal casts this really cool shadow that comes down. And it's such a, like, blowing my mind that you did that I'm going to take that and try to find a way that I can do that. So I'm glad you're going to a good home. Because
I can give you the address. You can visit if you need to.
Yeah, I'll bring pizza or something. And we can sit on the,
She wouldn't mind that.
Yeah, cool then. But yeah, this has been a great experience. The show was great. I like our work together. And you know, between Tucson and Detroit, I'm looking forward to seeing how you pull that one off. And I'll be there at that show as well. So yeah, I mean, it's just as awesome to do this. So
it's been a pleasure for me too.
It's been a pleasure. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.